How do you see the India-Russia relationship? Is Russia a trustworthy partner? I mean, they've been doing this druzhba exercises with Pakistan. They've been supplying stuff to Pakistan. They stopped after 21. But how do you see this relationship going long term, India-Russia?
So, for a very, very long time, the embassy in Delhi has been saying, boss, let's focus on RIC. And this is what I've been hearing in Kremlin as well. And they had a very clear thing. See, because even though they will bullshit in public, in private, Russian diplomats are very focused on what they want. And their thing was, boss, we may have been the superpower, but we're not the superpower anymore. We can't contain China. So let's bandwagon. Individually, we won't be able to resist China, but if both of us pretend to be China's friends and China's allies, together, India plus Russia can kind of keep China, at least we can direct China elsewhere and not focus China towards us.
That's a good ploy.
It's a good ploy. It's a fantastic ploy. India's foreign policy goal has been theoretically very clear since Nehru's time. It's a disaster in execution.
Okay.
Because it's not even sunk down to everybody within the IFS itself, which is that India being a land-centric power, we will not tolerate any grouping or coalition or alliance too big in Asia. Basically, that translates to China and Russia cannot be allowed to come together ever.
But are we in a position to stop that from happening?
No matter what the cost. And usually it involves an anatomical position called as fellatio.
Okay.
Kids don't Google that. Adults can Google that. We will play off one against the other. Okay. Nehru actually, in the early part, till Krishna Menon got involved in this and destroyed a lot of shit, did it very, very well. He created the Bandung Conference because his whole thing was, he'd go to Mao Zedong and say, "Arey Mao, you are such a great revolutionary leader, sir. Look at that bloody Ukrainian country bumpkin Khrushchev. He's not even worthy of being the dirt under your shoes. वो तो आपके पैर की जूती है जूती. You are a great Asian power, sir. I am going to create this conference which will showcase you as the leader of Asia." Then he'd go to Khrushchev and say, "Sir, see, China, you should treat them like a little brother. You are the great world power, sir. We will give you whatever you want, sir. Hindi, Rusi, bhai, sir." He did it decently.
Okay.
The problem seems to be, at some level his hatred of America also clouded his judgment. American capitalism. This whole anti-colonial posturing, his own bad economics and the need to go beg from them all the time, from the West and from Russia. And a lot of damage was done by Krishna Menon. Pointlessly just pissing off people when you didn't need to piss off people. So when the Hungarian invasion happened, when the crushing of the Budapest thing happened, he was given instructions by Nehru to vote against the USSR at the UN.
Okay.
He disobeyed that and he voted for the USSR without consequences.
Well.
Without consequences.
Okay.
And Nehru never brought accountability to his paltu kutte. So this became a problem. Again, what you're seeing is you have a lot of foreign ministers who love their own voices. True, it's not like Krishna Menon where it's acerbic, but where is the action on the ground? You have a pathetically small foreign service.
Yes, true.
And your foreign service is your primary source of intelligence collection. You need a foreign service about 3,000-4,000 people at least.
At least, yes.
We have a smaller foreign service than Singapore.
Correct.
And it's become smaller.
Okay.
Yeah, it's become smaller.
I see.
The primary diplomats are now down to 600 and something. It used to be 720, now we're down to 600 and something.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. And even those diplomats spend their time, they think of a foreign posting largely as some kind of reward.
Okay.
Kaam karna, ye karna. Like, when I was at the IAEA, this was when, it became very clear to everybody in Europe, but nobody in India. I was reading newspaper reports in India at that time when the NSG membership was the failed NSG membership.
Yes.
I landed up, I was in Warsaw for a summit. NATO summit chal raha tha, so I was there on the sidelines of that. And on the way, I just decided to stop in Vienna because I love Vienna on route to Rome. and I got taken around because a former student of mine was working at the IAEA. And I heard all this stuff, which I was like, how have I not heard this in Delhi? We were not going to get NSG membership. And the folks who were opposing it told us very, very clearly why we were not getting NSG membership, none of which was conveyed out here. And it wasn't China, it was people like Austria, Ireland, and Mexico.
Right.
Because their thing was, when we gave you the nuclear deal, you promised us there would be a full bifurcation of your reactors. There would be military reactors and there would be civilian reactors.
Okay.
You still have not bifurcated. How the hell are we going to give you next when you haven't delivered on your first promises?
Okay.
And they weren't willing to trust China, because what China told them was, see, in the India exemption, the 2008 IAEA exemption, they said, tum aage lado, hum tumhare piche hain. Aap aage badho, hum tumhare saath hain, or whatever, that slogan. And the moment those three caved, because America did aggressive, I met the then Austrian foreign minister for 2008. Her name is Ursula Plasnik, I think. I was having breakfast with her and she gave me something really interesting. Apparently, Condoleezza Rice, she was trying to avoid Condoleezza Rice because she intended to vote against India.
Okay.
2 Secret Service guys came and literally cornered her to the wall. They did not lay a hand on her, but they effectively imprisoned her, called Condi Rice. Condi Rice came and read her the Riot Act.
I see.
You will vote for India. Okay. And at that point, once the conversation has been had, you can't do anything about it. So America strong-armed Ireland, Mexico, and Austria to vote for India for that IAEA exemption. That was the 1, 2, 3 deal. It all happened simultaneously at the same time. Here, the Americans weren't willing to do that because even the contracts for American reactors which were meant to go through never went through. They still haven't gone through. And what ended up happening was that this time the Austrians, Irish, and this one decided, bhai, jab hum gir gaye, tum China kahan the? You did not pick up the flag after we dropped it, or pick up the baton after we dropped it. So this time you will be in front, we will be rear guard. And you can't do this with China, what Condi Rice. And this time, anyway, the Americans under Obama weren't willing to do what Condi Rice was and George Bush were willing to do for India. So I found that fascinating because you don't think that kind of thuggery will be used at that level. And she's a fantastic lady. She's got this reputation of being anti-India in India. She's not. She had very, very valid concerns.
Okay.
And her concerns had more to do with Pakistan. Because her thing was, once we let you in, do I trust you? Yes. Do I trust Pakistan? No. If I let you in, how do I prevent China from letting Pakistan in?
Right.
The solution to that was found. And then she was like, boss, you haven't delivered on your promises. How do I let you go through? I have to make it so expensive for you that India is able to absorb the cost, but Pakistan is not able to absorb that cost.
Right.
Which is very smart. I mean, she's not being anti-India. She is imposing the maximum pain on you so that you will not die. But she wants that pain for Pakistan to be so great that Pakistan will die. She's asking you for help in keeping Pakistan out. I mean, it's not an unreasonable request. Now, when you promise people contracts and don't give them contracts, and you refuse to understand what the Austrians, the Irish, and the Mexicans and others are saying, and the Swiss also apparently, that evening, the Swiss president was in India, gave a statement which the Indian press are so trashy. They knew what the statement was because the Indian press can't afford in foreign trips. They can't afford foreign trips, so they live off handouts from the MEA. They reported the MEA's version of the statement, which was complete fabrication and misrepresentation. And the Swiss were furious. It wasn't the Swiss who had come. It was the president who had gone to Switzerland. The president or somebody had gone to Switzerland, and the thing was issued out there. The briefing was given, and the MEA completely gave a wrong statement. They were furious about it. There were a lot of people who were furious about that. And you piss off people. You actively piss off people by misrepresenting what they've said. You misrepresent what the Austrians say and pretend that they're Nazis and whatnot out here. People aren't inclined to do you favors when you screw them over like that.
True.
There is an element of honor involved in it. The who's manipulating that is still in the foreign service. Right?
Okay.
There are no consequences for him. Even though he screwed us over very, very badly on the NSG thing, no consequences for him. So what do you do? So this is how things work out, or don't work out in this case.